Until a couple years ago, I was a farmer in Northwest Iowa. My husband and I farmed together and raised beef cattle for 42 years. And I started with Market Maker about 5.5 years ago. And now I'm full-time with Market Maker as their partnership success manager. And it is my pleasure to introduce one of the co-founders, Dar, along with her husband, Rich Knipe, are based out of Illinois, which is why she's joining us via Zoom today. And they, with some universities, founded Market Maker. Go ahead, Dar.
So as Joe said, I'm one of the co-founders of Market Maker. I was with Extension for 20 some years, my husband 30 some years, and I just say some because it was a lot between the two of us. We have over 50 years, but my husband worked specifically with livestock producers. I worked in small business development, and that sort of segued into what we called ag entrepreneurship, and that segued into this project we called Market Maker. So, that's my background. I actually am not a farmer, or I was not a farmer, although when I married into a family that were farmers. And so, I got my exposure after we got married, but my background was specifically in business, marketing, and finance. So between my husband and I, we've sort of become this blended team that really has kind of served us well. And with that, I will try to share my screen and explain a little bit more about what Market Maker is all about. I'm going to assume that most of you are not terribly familiar with Market Maker. For those of you who've heard this before, I apologize, but I'm just going to make the assumption that this is all new, and so I'm going to do a little bit of a little more background and in depth about where this whole thing evolved. Market Maker is an online platform that gives farmers better access to markets, and so it's a connector, kind of a LinkedIn, but it's also a network of partner organizations. So it sounds like there's quite a few organizations that are in the room. I'll try to address how they, as stakeholders, we have a value proposition for them as well, but allows farmers to market across multiple platforms. It's also free. It started out as an extension program, and our theory, our mission, is to make information widely accessible. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we don't put any kind of a surcharge on accessing that information. In addition, it's also a centralized data bank of detailed information on farms and food-related businesses. We blend in some secondary data, so there's things like census data, some USDA data, some marketing data, with the idea that it could also serve as a tool for developing business plans, to do strategic analysis. So we actually, it's a multifunction platform, and it's a little hard to explain in a couple of slides, but hopefully through the course of this presentation, you'll kind of get a gist of what it is. And then we track data essential to building a more agile, resilient food supply chain. That's the main driving forces. To what extent can technology and information really help, not only farmers and businesses access each other, but to organize, local and regional food systems and just food supply chains, value-added food supply chains. So I mentioned that I'd spent many years in extension. It was launched actually as an extension program clear back in 2004. So we're beyond 20 years. We celebrated 20 years last year. That was probably a milestone I never thought we would meet when we started this project. But I think one other thing that's important to note is that even though it started at University of Illinois as a kind of a modest extension program to connect livestock producers to Chicago markets, it grew very quickly. It had gotten the support of Illinois Department of Ag, and then from there we took it to meetings, other extension meetings, and so over the course of Market Maker's history, 22 different land grant institutions, NGOs, organizations like people that are represented in the room, governmental organizations, USDA included, contributed to the development of the platform. So it really has been a group effort. I feel like we were, people refer to us as the founders, but we were really kind of coordinators of a lot of creative, innovative people. And it's been a very gratifying project over these past couple of decades. The partner organizations all work collaboratively. So, one of the benefits is that, we're a network of networks, but technology is probably 20% of our project. 80% is what I call the high touch, the outreach and engagement, the people part. And one of the benefits is that, we convene a lot of organizations that have learned to work collaboratively. And, really the strength of that collaboration has been sort of the secret sauce with Market Maker. Supports come from universities, Farm Bureau, Farm Credit, USDA. We have an agreement with Farmer Veteran Coalition at the national level, state departments of ag. So it's a really long list of and diverse list of organizations that we consider part of our partner network. Where we are today, and this is obviously, I haven't updated this slide, my apology, 2025. Currently we support about 135 domains. So I guess the best way to explain that is that we started out as a single website, a single destination. And now what we've gone with like a powered by Market Maker model. So we're connecting all these organizations and providing technical support so that they're all connected digitally. There's about 750 profile views in 2024. So we have a lot of traffic across all of our platforms. And we have a multitude of members, 40,000 account holders or members that create detailed profiles about their farms, their food and ag related organizations and businesses. So it includes farmers markets, community-based organizations, community gardens, food banks, like I said, a very diverse community. But the common element is that they're putting, their information, granular detail about their organizations and their businesses up so that they can find one another. We also represent about 1,000 products and services in the database. And the common denominator is they're all somehow related to not only the food supply chain, but we've also branched out to include, ag in general. This is important to note because this is actually one of Iowa's own websites. Iowa State, who was, by the way, our very first partner outside of Illinois, has a website, a program called the Ag Marketing Resource Center. It's funded by USDA, has a wealth of information around marketing products, ag marketing. And we have what is embedded within that is what we call the food searcher tool. So if you go to the Ag Marketing Resource Center website, you look at some of their commodity pages where they'll have information on a product. There'll be the ability to search for those products and find the farmers that produce those products. That is powered by Market Maker. That's one of the domains that we support. And there's about 5,000 product searches per week. And the reason I think that's worth noting is because that drives a lot of we call eyeballs on profiles. So that partnership, that collaboration with Iowa State is a perfect example of how partners working together can really exponentially grow the impact of this program. This, I call it my dandelion, but this is actually what Market Maker looks like now. It's a network of networks. So each of those little nodes are organizations that have some sort of digital presence, some kind of web-based presence. And Market Maker provides digital support to this network. We have this little orange circle in the middle. This big orange circle in the middle is national, and all of the information is centralized and aggregated there. But then from there, there's sort of an information sharing system where, you have the state directory or the state website, Illinois Market Maker, Iowa Market Maker. But then with each of these hubs, these state hubs, there's all of these organizations that kind of spider out from there. And the beauty is that now you can, as a state, develop some sort of a comprehensive network where not only can you communicate, but it's also a good way, because everything is mapped, it's a good way to kind of develop a blueprint for what's going on within your state. And then those organizations, and this is something that we've learned is sort of a dividend of this new model, is that the organizations start to work together a lot better because they have this sort of shared interest in maintaining this information system. It's good. It's definitely a benefit to the farmers and the businesses because they can create an account with one profile and then have the ability to participate across multiple platforms, have their information shared, thus giving them more exposure to markets. This is this is what the homepage would look like if you were to go to National Market Maker. But again, as I mentioned before, we support about 130 some domains. So there's a lot of different ways that you can view the information or subsets of it. The state sites look very similar. They're cloned. Actually, Market Maker manages those entire websites. But then if you go and do a search, what you'll notice, this is an example of a search I think, Farmer Veteran Coalition, I think, and this is Illinois Market Maker specifically, but you'll get a list of farmers, and you'll notice that they have what we call affiliations. So those are our partner organizations. And these links would connect to those information on those organizations, but then it would also then roll over to potentially a directory. It depends on the level of affiliation with these organizations. So if you were to go to the Homegrown by Heroes website, in this case, this is the national program for veterans that are farmers, you would find a directory and it would be powered by Market Maker. But that same profile also appears in the Illinois Market Maker. You can see up here in this taskbar, there's a lot of different filters. This is where Market Maker is not only unique, but I think, we have the only database of its kind. When I said we have detailed profiles, you can search by location, business type, product, the organizations. You can look specifically around organizations, certifications, GAP, organic, that sort of thing. And then a lot of different product attributes. I mean, it's a fairly extensive list of filters. You can search for people that sell wholesale or direct, farm to school. You can spend I could spend a lot of time just talking about all of the different detail. And then we have a lot of subsets of categories around products. For instance, it's not just green beans. You can search by certain types of cultivars. This has evolved. This never stops growing, this database. We're always adding new attributes depending on what the market is demanding. So these are the point of all of this detail and all these different filters is that they are determined to be important points of differentiation in the marketplace. The other advantage to this is that you can take subsets of this data, whether it be by product, which is what happens with Food Searcher, or by affiliation, which is what's happening with Homegrown by Heroes, or even potentially by certification. And we can create these spin-off applications, directories, or whatever, based on those filters. So we can offer a localized, specialized version of Market Maker in the form of a directory. These are examples of the various affiliations, but what would happen is somebody who creates a profile, when they create their account, they can actually go through this list and they can select those affiliations of those organizations they're part of. That then basically is giving those organizations permission to share their profiles in their directories, which, by the way, Market Maker provides. This is practical. I believe this is Practical Farmers of Iowa's landing page. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. But Practical Farmers of Iowa is one of our affiliated partners. And if you were to go to their website and do a search, it's powered by Market Maker. So you begin to realize the synergies between our partner organizations and National Market Maker. So it runs on an organization, these plugins run on an organization's website, but we're actually managing the technology. Of course, the benefit to the organization is that this technology, the cost can be significant, especially if you're a small organization or a nonprofit. So by us managing this baseline technology, we can make directories, interactive directories, available to organizations that might not have either the financial or technical resources to create their own. Plus, maintaining them is a real chore, and that's the case with any directory. So, and that's the other benefit to this model, is by having all these partner organizations working together, we kind of work hand in glove to work with our stakeholders to keep this information current. it synchronizes with other plugins and websites that are part of the Market Maker network. And, as I mentioned before, this would mean that a single profile, when it's updated, when an individual farmer or business updates their account, that it automatically and concurrently updates in all of the affiliated directories that they have elected to participate in. And then the organizations, we actually have metrics. And so organizations can track usage and actually communicate with the plugin registrants. So what I mean by that is that if you're an affiliated organization, you have a directory that's powered by Market Maker, then you have some ability, not only can you track what's going on with those individuals within the system, but then you have the ability to have this sort of in-network communication structure where you can email and search and filter within the membership. So that's another benefit. It helps with member management. This is an example of how it looks in Illinois. Illinois was the first one to really take the idea of building an in-state network. And it's been going on now for about 6 years, I think. It's done extremely well. We've discovered there's a lot of dividends and benefits we hadn't anticipated, and mainly because these organizations were kind of their own data silos, and they were competing a lot for grants with one another, and they were also competing for the time and attention of the businesses they were trying to serve. It was counterproductive. They kind of knew it was, but they didn't quite know how to sort of break through that barrier. And so by developing this cooperative digital network, the money that they would have spent supporting technology, perhaps going after funding, has really now sort of shifted to working collectively to do outreach and engagement and marketing. So within the network, in the case of Illinois, Illinois Farm Bureau is the hub. It's the state lead, and this is these circles all represent organizations that participate. One of the things that is important to notice in this network is you have some statewide organizations, but we also have, if you look at these little yellow dots on the outside, some of those are organizations within organizations. So county farm bureaus have their own directories that Market Maker provides plugins for, but all of these systems talk to one another. And the exponential growth in traffic for those individual profiles, it's very easy to track and make the case for the benefits to this sort of thing. I already talked about Agmark, but they are one of our biggest partners, and I feel like they've really been sort of the wind beneath our wings, I guess, in terms of what we've become. We didn't even think about becoming a national network until we met up with Agmark at a meeting. And so this model that you see, a lot of that was inspired by the folks that were running Agmark back then, and 20 years ago. This is an example of what I mentioned was the plugin. If you were to go to Food Searcher, or if you were to go to Agmark and look up apples, this is what the map would look like. And again, this is powered by Market Maker. But in this case, they hand-selected filters where you can look to see who shops online, or whether it's available to be purchased online. If they sell direct to consumer, wholesale, gap, organic, these are filters that they elected to use for this particular plugin. So it gives you a good idea of how you can customize these plugins. I'm going to skip that part. So we have a lot of collaborations. We have what we call cooperative agreements with USDA. Now, the Urban Ag Project, what they've done is they've given us some financial support to develop some new tools and features, which we're pretty excited about. So this has helped us establish some technology that helps connect farms and businesses to food banks and food assistance programs. And again, strengthen our ties to urban ag producers. That would include greenhouses, that sort of thing, community gardens. So, we're amping up our outreach effort in urban areas to support historically underserved communities. And of course, their interest is in being able to work collaboratively with our extensive network of organizations. So it's been a win-win up to this point, and we've been able to get some things done that we've wanted to do for a long time. Oh, come on.
And by the way, we will post all of these slides on our Facebook page. So take pictures, but to know that you'll have all of them available.
Yeah, so part of this project has been what we call a new buy-sell forum plugin. So one of the things that Market Maker has, in addition to being able to search individual profiles that explain what businesses do and grow, is we have sort of a real-time platform where people can share availability of product or a need for product. And that's called the buy-sell forum. Up until this point, you had to go either to the national market maker site or to the state market maker sites to find that listing, and it was for the entire country. So just recently, in fact, a few weeks ago, we launched what we call the new buy-sell forum plugin. So individual organizations can have their own sort of mini version of the buy-sell forum. I don't want to get too nerdy on you technically, but you can embed the buy-sell form. It's API driven. You have the ability to filter the ads by location, product, et cetera. And then we also have this system where you can create notifications. So if you're an organization that's perhaps interested only in product that's available in a certain area geographically, or you may be a regional buyer who's only interested in produce. You could set up preferences, and then that information, when it appears on the buy-sell form, could be sent to you. We offer now SMS. I know that doesn't sound like anything, real sophisticated, but it's not a feature we had available until just very recently. And then there's also the ability to actually purchase through those ads. So that's something that's new as well. It's more than just listing product availability, but there could actually be some online purchasing, either through a store or through PayPal or something like that. But this is an example of a profile. It's sort of one of the bricks in the wall. This is what everything is based on. If you can add all kinds of information, you can connect to other partners. So for instance, if you're a farmer's market and you want to connect to the vendors in your market, you can connect their profiles. So then there's a little bit of cross synergy there. If you visit the farmer's profile, you can see the markets where he appears and vice versa. So there's a lot of ways to be creative with it. Some people don't do a lot with it, but I can tell you that the more extensive the profile, the higher the ranking in the search. You can embed an online store in your profile. So if you go and do searches on Market Maker, you'll notice a shop now, the ability to shop now. Not a lot of farmers are set up to have stores simply because it just doesn't necessarily fit their business model. They may not have shelf-stable products, but for those who do, we want to make sure that people are able to directly access their products and purchase. This is one of the nice things is when you have this much information and we have that technical capacity, we can come up with lots of different derivative technologies. So app development is one of those things. Now, this is an example of a consumer-facing app called What's in Season. If you were to have that on your phone, you could, depending on where you are, it would tell you what is in season at that particular time of year, and those products would then link to the growers in that area that produce it, and in addition to the farmers markets within that area. I don't know if I have a slide on this or not, but we also just recently launched something called Flowers in Season. It's the first time that we've really tried to reach and accommodate the cut flower industry. So we're trying to really promote and support locally grown flowers as well. This is an example of a collaboration. If you notice, if you were to go into the What's in Season app, if you were to go to honey, you would find that there's also educational information, preparation, nutrition, and storage. This was an organization called the Land Connection that actually got a grant to provide educational information around the products that are featured in What's in Season. So again, this shows you how, a lot of different organizations contributing to help build and develop this, bringing their strengths to the table and really helping us develop all these products and make them available to the public at virtually no cost. Again, this is less about B2B, business to business or business to consumer, but we also have collaborations with researchers. This is an example of a project that we had with Economic Research Service, USDA's Economic Research Service, where they're studying the impacts of citrus greening, which for those of you who aren't familiar with it is really threatening the orange juice industry. And so what we've done is we've provided what we call supply chain maps. So this is an example of businesses in the supply chain around the citrus industry, but it can be adapted to a lot of other uses as well. So that data, all that aggregated data that comes from all of these many types of businesses participating in the system can then help inform some of these food asset maps or food shed maps that then support research, strategic planning, business planning, that sort of thing. This is, and I won't go into a lot of detail on this. This is its own hour's presentation, but there's a lot of different ways you can use our advanced mapping tools. Even to the extent that you could farmers markets in Chicago area to see which farmers markets serve Hispanic neighborhoods or something to that extent. So there's a lot of different ways that you can cut and slice the data that we have imported into Market Maker. And that's data over and above the information that we get directly from the farms and businesses. So I'm not going to go into that, and I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to open up for questions, if anybody has any.
Well, I've got a question from Mike Schulist. I will channel him. He's a national, go-between with organic grain. Now, national farmers could have a listing, couldn't he? Or Mike could use Market Maker as a facilitator for Mike's activity, could he not?
Absolutely. In fact, we just went to a show a couple of weeks ago where someone from your organization came up to us and asked us about potential for collaborating. So, I'd be real interested in having a discussion about how that might look. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we could probably, especially specifically since you're focusing on organic and grains, that we could probably help support that if you're interested.
Okay, the question is, how do you find your buyers for a niche market?
There's a couple of ways that you can identify potential buyers. First of all, you could simply put product on the buy-sell form and buyers have access to it. They might respond that way. We have buyers that actually create profiles in Market Maker. It's not just, those who are growing and producing the product, but it's all down chain as well. So you can go in and search there. And this is, when I showed you that advanced map, and maybe Joe could talk a little bit more about it after the presentation. But we also bring in data, probably about, maybe close to 3 million profiles of just, of businesses, where we map the businesses in the food and ag supply chain. Those are examples where those businesses may not create a detailed profile, but you still want to know where they are. So for instance, you could map where grocery stores are, or you could map, I'm trying to think of examples, processors. So, that one, you're a little more you'd have to rely a little more on cold calling. In fact, that's exactly what you would be doing. But it's still, the ability to identify infrastructure and where you might want to reach out to someone. So, like I said, there's a couple of different ways that buyers and sellers can connect through Market Maker. And I'm sure Joe will be happy to show you specifically examples. So.
Dar, a couple of things. So this is what we did with Arlene Enderton and ISU recently. She put this big database together with our work in the farm and food business priority group. And rather than having this database hanging out there, we coordinated with Joe and so that would be an example of those businesses that don't necessarily have profiles, but they're in your database. So we know there's 1,500 or so different entities that she had identified. The other thing is that you have a donation function, don't you? Let's say Golden Magnolia here, our community kitchen, could make a profile and they could say, hey, we need XYZ, or they could search who is willing to donate XYZ. So tell us about that.
So Bob's asking about the discounts and donation feature of the Buy Sell Forum, Dar.
Yeah, actually, I thought he did a pretty good job of explaining it. If someone were to create an ad, you go in and create an ad, you have product, you could do a couple of things. First of all, you go in and you can create an ad. And oftentimes, if it's something that's not shelf stable, if it's produce that has a limited shelf life, you may put out an ad at a certain price, but then after a while, you may decide it's time to discount it, or you would just be interested in straight up donating. And then you can go in and edit that so it's a donation or a discounted product. Now, and this is something that we've been really trying to get going, and this will require some coordination within I think within coalitions. I could see what's going on in Iowa helping become a vehicle of this. But if we can get these food assistance programs to create profiles, and then as preferences, they put their nonprofit status in there, we would have to vet them to make sure that they actually qualify as a food assistance program. But then we can push those ads to those organizations whenever there is product available. But I think Bob gives the best example. Put out on the buy sell forum, put out a looking to buy or a need, because I have a feeling that I think farmers would respond if they know specifically that there's a need. So if you're looking for fresh produce in a certain time of year, they could either see it, or we could actually push that information or that request to farmers in your area. So that's something that there's been a lot of interest and support in, and we've provided the baseline technology for it. Now it just takes the outreach and engagement to get folks involved.
Right now, there is great disruption at the government level in terms of support for farms and money from the government, the federal government, that a lot of farmers depend on. In the news stories I see, they're very alarmed. So what can your organization do to address that? How much does your organization depend on all those money streams coming from the federal government to hold things together, which now look like they're beginning to fall apart?
That's probably the hardest question I've been asked in the past year and a half. Some of that I'm trying to get answers for right now. We have always tried to diversify our support so we were never overly dependent. But the reality, overly dependent on one entity, but the reality is we work with organizations that also look to those programs for support. We work with a lot of nonprofits that get their funding through USDA grants. We have contracts with USDA. So it's something that we're trying to get answers to right now. Actually, we're leaving for DC in a couple of days, and we have some meetings where hopefully I could learn some of the answers to those questions that you've asked. We do have a plan B and a C, only because it's what you have to do. We have some funding sources, especially at the state level, that aren't dependent on federal funding. And then we work with some organizations that are already looking beyond some of those USDA programs and, partnering with them. I wish I had a pat answer for that. I mean, it's a concern that I think everybody shares right now. It's amazing how USDA has some connector in some way to so many different agricultural activities. So, we're trying to find our way. Fortunately, we also have Farm Credit as a supporter, and, that's comforting to us. But, we work with a lot of universities, and I think most of you are aware of, the angst they have right now with some of the funding streams. So the good news for us is that we work, I feel like we're lean and mean. And so we manage to do a lot with limited resources. I hope that's going to work in our favor as we try to get through this, for want of a better word, uncertainty. I wish I could answer your question. I wish somebody could answer your question.
The question is, if someone has a very small business, like in a very small town in Iowa, say, how would is our platform a good place for them to look for the items that they're going to need if they want to put in a deli or that sort of thing? So you're talking about buying local, right?
Yeah,
So-
I think, yeah, go ahead, Joe. I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah, so absolutely, this is a good place for that. Again, the buy sell forum, and also what I've encouraged people to do on the buy sell forum is even if you have like a little store. I had a value added business for about 11 years on our farm, and I had just a very, very small store. But take an item that's that's a good seller for you or that sort of thing, and put it on the buy sell forum to get your name in front of people. But then also, if you're looking to buy supplies for a deli or that sort of thing, then you can go on there and again put that you're looking to buy, because the buy sell forum works either way. You can either sell things that you have on that, or you can ask people to sell you their things on that by changing how you.
And the big thing that I understand about that is that before that was not as detailed and granular. But now, let's say you have a downtown deli, and you're not going to want products from Belgium, Washington. You're going to want products in that area. So now with the new buy sell forum, it's far easier to filter. So you just get products that are available within 50 miles or whatever you can. Is that true?
Yes, I'm very glad we talked about this over coffee, Bob.
Yes, exactly.
Joe, this is Barbara. Southeast Iowa Food Hub is also an access organization where local people that, just as that person described, if they're wanting access to local food, that I can help with that as well.
I'm looking to start working with farmers throughout the region to increase the biodiversity in the throwout land,
Mhm.
the unfarmable acreage.
Yeah.
And so working as a steward to increase biodiversity in these corridors. Would this be a good place to meet farmers who may or may not be, who may be interested in increasing the biodiversity of their?
So the question is if our platform would be a good place for her to go and find farmers who are interested in increasing their biodiversity. And the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you can, with all the filters that we have, you can keep honing in your search. You can start by, first of all, Market Maker is a national database, but Iowa is one of our state partners. And so you can go to Iowa Market Maker. So now you've already filtered down to just the state of Iowa. Then you can go by county. You can go by miles of radius miles. You can go by certifications, all of that, and find the people that you're looking for in our database and start there. And if you find a few, they're gonna help you find others.
Cool.
And she could even put an ad in the buy sell, looking for farmers who want to increase biodiversity in the throwaway
Yes,
acres that they've got. That could be an ad, right?
absolutely. Yep.
And
Now, Joe, you
Joe,
might want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, Dara or Joe, I was just wondering, are those ads paid for by the person who's placing that ad? Is that a source of revenue for Market Maker?
They're free.
Oh, fabulous. Great. Thank you.
We kind of view ourselves as a public information infrastructure. It just seems there was a need, and we 20 some years ago decided we were going to commit to that need.
So Dara, I bet a lot of people are saying, have you created a natural motion machine, or how do you get funded? How is Market Maker actually funded?
Lots of different stakeholders. So at the state level, we have what we call a state license. And so the lead person or the lead organization will pay to have Market Maker, a state Market Maker website. And then within that capacity, they can start to build that in-state network. So we have a value proposition basically where they license with us for that state network. But they also then have to agree to play by the rules. They don't abuse the data. They don't resell it. We try to be neutral and make sure that the information that we share is quality. Anybody who's ever worked in extension, those were basically the rules of engagement that we brought into this project as well. So there's that. Then we have support from organizations that just have an interest in this network thriving, and that would be Farm Credit. Farm Bureau to some extent has helped fund this. USDA has, and again, this gets back to what's going on right now. USDA has been a big funder of this because this kind of information infrastructure has value. The idea is, and then we have the organizations will pay a modest fee for those plugins. So we have multiple sources of income. Like I said, we're not getting wealthy off of this, but because we're what I feel is a fairly efficient organization, we've been able to operate with minimal resources and have not had to, nor do we anticipate ever having to resort to charging fees for people to access one another. And the same goes for ads. We just want that information system established.
So the only people that pay for anything in Market Maker are those state partners. But to the users, so like everyone in this room, it does not cost you to create a profile. It does not cost you to place buy-sell ads. It does not cost anything to go look at the buy-sell ads and see what ads are out there this week or what popped up in the last few days. None of that costs the farmer, the small business owner, the producer. Any other questions?
Okay. Well,
A couple of things that I want to add. I have more information on the buy sell forum on the front table if anyone is interested in that. I also have information on the What's in Season app. I also have business cards that have my cell phone number, my email, that sort of thing on it that you can, if you want to utilize Market Maker, I can help you if you hit a snag creating your profile, creating an ad, anything that you want to use Market Maker for. I'm your go-to person. And if I can't answer your question, I know who can. So.
And Joe, you might want to mention that, with this new buy sell form plugin, that there is none in there. There isn't one in Iowa yet. So there is no Iowa specific buy sell form. It was, this was something that was just launched in Illinois. So if there's an interest in, having a state specific buy sell form, maybe that's something that you guys could discuss as a group. But, this is the technology that it's available, but it takes somebody within a state to want to have that particular application. Right now, it's just the Illinois branding program, Illinois Department of Ag, Illinois Grown program, Illinois Products program, the buy sell, the Illinois specific buy sell form exists on their page with the idea that a lot of organizations will start to share it. I mean, anyone can use it in Iowa, the buy-sell form. It's just like Joe said, if you want something that's just uniquely Iowa, that's its own plugin, and it would need a place to live, and it requires a little bit of setup. So there would be some cost associated with setting up a state-specific buy-sell form.